Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlector George,
and Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We conclude our coverage of The Heroes, Joe's second standalone and the next First Law entry, and this is a spoiler-filled episode where we provide our review of The Heroes. So, let's get started. As usual, we want to thank you, little people, little fans, our friends, for your continued support. We want to remind you to follow us on our YouTube page, our social media platform pages. We had, at the time of this recording, we are just getting back from our quasi-traditional, quasi-annual, gathering.
It'll be traditional when we do it next time.
Yeah. Hopefully by next year it'll be like on an actual annual basis. But me, Georgie, and Harrison all met up this time in Harrison's territory. I'm not gonna say it. Fuck it. I'm saying it. The Trail of Tears. I'm just kidding.
In the old back country.
Back country. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we were there for about a week, and really, me and George were really impressed. Right. And it was a fun time. Great.
Yeah,
food.
it was really, really, really nice. Not saying that we didn't thought it was going to be a horrible place, but
I just thought it was gonna be more brown.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot greener and very verdant and nice. It's a good place.
I expected more like corn and wheat stalks. Just like.
You heard it straight from cultured people of the great city of what city are you in, Jeff?
New Brunswick, New Jersey.
New Brunswick in New Jersey, in the great New York metropolitan area, and from a British bloke who everybody knows are always more cultured than Americans just by default. That Tulsa is the greatest tourist destination on the planet. That's it. That's all I got.
It's definitely more modern than I was expecting. It's a lovely place.
Yeah. I didn't see any ramshackle saloons, so which is that's always a plus.
Actually,
it was really nice. It really
was.
You
can't go in there and shoot anybody.
Damn, we did shoot guns though. We did shoot a hell guns.
And quite a few as well, which is good fun. It was a good day out.
Georgie injured himself as a true European.
Yeah, absolutely. Lucky I didn't shoot myself by accident. That would have been bad.
Yeah, no, that was the homeless person we brought along, but we don't need to talk about him.
We paid him.
Anyway, so yeah, it was a great time, and we got to hang out with the Bloody Niner in person. We drove down to Houston as well, right? Spent some time at NASA. We saw the movie Sinners. That was a fantastic movie, by the way. Great. Go see it. That's a recommendation. See it in 70mm IMAX. Yep. Yeah, just a great time. And we want to take this opportunity to call on the First Law fandom to, extend a hand across the aisle and let's garner some friendships. Let's cultivate some connection, man.
No, it's right. You're right. Spread the good word and tell everybody about the Circle of the World podcast so that we can get more views.
That too, but also, I hope everyone's excited. The Devils is about to come out. We're excited about that.
Yes.
We got Red Country coming up next. We got some fun stuff happening. So, just please go ahead and follow us on the social media platforms. Join our Discord. That thing has been expanding, and I have thoughts about like how we can even organize it a little bit better, but we can talk about that another time, boys. But join our Discord. Just send us a request via our email at circleoftheworldpodcast@gmail.com or hit us up, direct message on any of our social media platforms, and we will get you in there.
Oh, Jeffrey, you are motivated this episode, huh? No, we're good.
I am operating at 100%, but like zero fuel. So it's gonna be a short burst, boys. It's gonna be a short burst.
What's the medicine you're taking?
Theraflu.
Yeah, you're on Therafuel.
We've got roughly half an hour before Jeff just passes out.
Yeah, basically.
So let's get going.
That's basically all right. Boys, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, very excited for the Devils. It's actually as of now, it's coming out today in the UK, which would
Lucky
be
bastard.
4 or 5 days ago when you're listening to this episode. So to everybody that's in the UK, you've probably finished the Devils by now, so that's fine.
If you're a true fan.
If you're a true fan, you can finish the book on day one.
All right. Great. So we'll go ahead and we'll continue on with our episode, and we'll start off by, we'll just highlight certain characters and plot points of the heroes. Boys, where do you want to start off with, or who do you want to start off with?
We'll go with. I want to go with Finry first.
Okay, let's talk about Finry.
It's a bit of a departure. I mean, this is a character that you don't get to see much of. I mean, the archetype character, who doesn't seem like much at first. She's just kind of a military wife. She's the son of, the daughter of Lord Marshal Croy, and she kind of develops not that much, and still by the end is venomously ambitious and has let her friend get kidnapped. I say let her; she didn't really have any much choice, but a true Joe Abercrombie character through and through, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that she doesn't really change that much. You're right, she doesn't. But I really like how it's
traumatized.
A lot of Joe's characters, people talk about him being grimdark and all of that, and we do too, and how a lot of his characters don't change. But Finry is a character who we do see later on, and it's not a spoiler to say she is different, and it's not just because of age. I think that is something Joe does very well. This event that she goes through is only one tiny portion of her life. And so in the heroes, it doesn't seem like hardly anybody changes except for Beck. I think. Yeah, pretty much. It's just Beck. Everybody else stays the same because everybody else changes in the long term or are stagnant characters. And Joe does that very well. His characters do change. They just change more naturally than a lot of fiction writing does, I think. And Finner is a great example of that. She went through some trauma. She had a reaction, and she will change over time. But her goal has been accomplished. She furthered her career for herself and her husband very effectively, I might add.
Yeah, very effectively by basically just having an outburst at Baez, which is funny. That's like the entire reason why he was just like, oh, that's interesting. Somebody's standing up to me.
Baez is like, normally I like submissive women, but you're the exception.
I feel like she has changed, and I feel like we gotta be careful with the notion that Abercrombie's characters don't change. I think what the difference is like I think they do go through, changes in personality or circumstances, or maybe not circumstances, but where they kind of end up is a circular arrival to like the place they've always been at, right? The place, but not necessarily the, their personalities. I think will have changed. Like she's obviously a different. Like Harrison was saying, because he was saying what I was gonna say in kind of rebuttal to you, George, but she went through a traumatic event, right? And there were her perspectives on war, on ambition, on love, on just the being of the nature of being, right, for a human. That you kind of saw them going through those kind of perspectives, going through fluctuations. Now, does that mean she changed so much that she's not venomously ambitious? No. I think what it was is, if you realize how she got there, like how, her and Hal got that position, literally fell into their lap, right?
Yeah.
So it's like she went through the traumatic event, right? She was plotting and planning right until, the, stranger come fucking and the Krynna bastards come in and they wore Mead's skull as a codpiece, right? Up to that point, she was plotting and planning. Then she gets captured. That's out the window. Now she's not plotting and planning, and she's just like there, accompanying her dad while Hal is fighting. And then, Baez presents her with this, Hal's going to be propped up to Lord Governor girl. And she, just let's remember, he gave that to her while she was losing her shit at him for demoting, for making Croy resign. The only other time she got like some kind of like a couple sassy remarks, it was like more like, why not Hal be, Lord Governor or somebody. She meant that, but it was like very like, snap, snap. Remember, she walks away from him, but she doesn't like actually stand up to him, right? She's just being very witty and sassy. And then you have the part where Croy says, I'm fucking going there to end this battle right now, whether you like it or not. And then Finnery's like, guess like you're gonna have to get a little dirty after all, whatever the fuck she said, right? So I don't think she didn't.
So what you're saying is because she's a woman, she didn't put any work into a position.
No. What I'm saying is she received the results, the results that a venomously ambitious person would want to receive, right? But she got him at a point where she wasn't even looking for him. You know what I'm saying? She was
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. She did change. Like before, from the until she gets kidnapped or whatever. Until then, she is actively plotting and planning.
No, yeah.
Then after that, she's depressed. She's she's PTSD, everything, and that's obviously going to shape her worldview. That does not negate the ambition that's there. It's just right now, ambition has no place when she saw somebody get split in half. Right? She's like, "Fuck that," and a friend that she left behind because she had to. It's either her or the friend, and there's a lot of like survivor's guilt there too. So I think Finnery has changed. I think just now her prospects are looking up, at least in the sense of like her place in life and her husband's place in life. Internally and mentally, she's got.
Well, like you said, most of Joe's characters they do end in a different place. They just don't end up the same way that they thought they were going to get it, right?
Right.
Or emotionally, and that's most of Joe's characters. Most of them, a lot of them get what they want. Like I don't want to backtrack too much here. There's other characters in this book, but like Giselle is the prime example. He got to be king, exactly everything he wanted to be, everything he dreamed of as like a boy. But he doesn't want that anymore. So
that's he's changed.
Because he's changed.
But
right.
his place, right? His circumstance,
right? And Joe does that a lot because it's like paying for what you want. I'm trying to think the other character, right?
Yeah.
Gorse gets what he wants, right?
Yeah.
But Gorse doesn't get the satisfaction of getting what he wants.
No, yeah, absolutely.
And that he doesn't deserve it, but it's another example. Gorse is very simple. He wants to be back in a position where he believes that he's respected, back with he may not say it, but back with his friend Giselle in a place of honor where he feels useful because he is a man and he wants to feel useful. And he may be a sociopath, but he still feels those things. And he lacks, and he gets it. And then the one person he wants to acknowledge him is like throws it back in his face, totally justifiably. And it's like it's in his way. Unlike a lot of the characters, it's very satisfying to see him be like, oh, like with Finnery, you're like, oh, that really sucks. She had to go through that to get what she wanted in her mind. Whereas with Gorse, you're like, you gotta deserve worse than that.
Yeah.
Although Gorse, I suppose Gorse wouldn't be offended by anything other than that. So.
That's very true. I think Joe sort of has this sort of recurring thing, like you say, that it's kind of like a be careful what you wish for kind of thing, because you might not like what you have to pay in order to get it.
Yeah. For all his physical prowess, the man is
a sad, weak little man. With no neck.
Necklace bastard. But anyway, we were talking about Finnery and somehow we ended up talking about Gorse.
I was just trying to naturally transition over. I didn't. He had something else to say about Finnery. I'm sorry. We were talking about her for a little while. I was trying to transition.
Okay. I was just gonna say, just to wrap that up, like, Finnery. I think Finnery's a great character, and I think she's a very realistically written female character in the world of the Union as well, where there aren't any like kind of female any women in the army at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So for someone, this is how someone in that position who was a woman would be able to get along,
Yes, she also is, she is nobility to a degree, right? Because Croy is nobility. And like the women who are not nobility inside of the Union seem to be able to do a little bit more, but the women in nobility are restricted to class. So yeah, they obviously have money, but they have to marry and they have to be with this person and they have to go along with them in the war and all these criteria. So I think you're totally right. She's somebody who is able to utilize her position in this kind of world, and it's not necessarily like vindictive just because she's looking to better herself. Because what else is she gonna do? Go at all the men?
And I like how that is sort of brought up as well. It's just like, oh, why can't you go and stay with the other wives?
Yeah. You woman.
God damn it.
Mm.
It's funny. So Gorse then.
Yeah, Gorse.
Yes.
Go ahead. What was your thoughts on Gorse, George?
Yeah, no. At first, I said this during the episodes as well. Like, I could kind of get on his side at the beginning, where he's sort of like, "Oh, I'm just a scapegoat," and none of my problems are really my fault because it all stems from me being extremely insecure about my voice, and it's just sort of builds from there. But by the end, you do realise that, of course, this his own worst enemy. It's all his fault because he's just such a fucking little shit. And I cannot feel sorry for him in the slightest. Which I think is brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first time we get a perspective of Gorse here, right, in this book, in the entire series. And I mean, first paragraph, like you said, George, oh no, they treated him wrong. And then afterward, you're like, wait a minute, this guy's like, he's complaining a lot.
This guy complains all the time, like every minute of every day. It's just about
This guy's
him,
kind of a
him,
bitch.
him.
Yeah, it sounds like a little whiner. And and then when he talks about Sapani, you're like, oh shit, he was there, and that was a shit show. So, and then yeah, with Gorse, I mean, his whole thing is like, he's like the incel of the First Law, like the prototypical,
The one, the only.
the one and the only one. And I mean, he never changed. He didn't even go through a moment of reflection, of like a desire to be, to undertake some kind of form of self-improvement. Nope, nada, niet. This guy just said, he's just, as Sir Spaceman said in the Discord, friendly fire is on all the time, and he's just bloodlusty, and nothing's ever his fault. It takes no responsibility until Finnery slaps him in the face with it, right, verbally, to the point where
Even then, he's just like, damn, she's right. Oh, well.
Because here's the thing. Internally, he did shame himself, right? He hates himself, but then he found always like some kind of like guys, like, but it's not my fault. I'm shitty, but it's not my fault because this happened to me, right? But
Yeah.
now he has an external source, Finry, confronting him with the truth of the matter, right? While, that internal hatred is always going to be happening no matter what. And now they're happening simultaneously, and he can't hide from that, right? Because like the thing with the narcissists is they love themselves, but they also hate themselves. They're always like, whatever.
Right.
And so in this sense, once Finry leaves him and walks away, now that Gorse is like truly coming to terms, like Logan truly coming to terms with who he is. Gorse is truly coming to terms with who he is. He's a man of violence, wants to commit violence. Stop looking for to lay the blame of your current position at the feet of others. And he cannot he's been disabused of that notion now, right? He's fully self-aware of the fact that he's just a shitty incel. Narcissistic incel.
Exactly. Fuck you, Ghost. Everybody hates you.
Well, I think from this point on, I think he might have gotten better, right? I mean, we could talk spoilers next few books or no?
Yeah.
All right, so like considering how he carries himself in the Age of Madness, you could tell like, you know what, maybe there is like some desire to seek a level of honor that he never had.
No.
No, I see every time he sees Leo, he's like, give my regards to your mother, and he's like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? She's never mentioned you once, bro.
He's like, yeah, I know your mom. You let me know if she wants to fuck.
No, I don't think he said that.
No, he
He literally says, "Send my regards to your mother," and Leo doesn't even know the fuck who he is.
Right,
well, not he does, but
no, he knows who Gorse is, and he. All right, it's been a while since I read.
Henry is never brought up to Leo that Gorse was like a part of her life.
Okay, fine, but that's not my point. That's not my point.
Okay.
Because my point is, I think you're confronting his desire to fuck Finnery with something else. I'm saying, since that moment with Finnery, right? I'm thinking, it seems logical to the point that he's never like I'm assuming he's never left the Knights of the Body again. He never got removed from being the first of the king's.
Oh, he's done better at his actual job.
Yeah, he's done better at his actual
Yeah.
job, and he might have a better attitude, is what I'm saying.
No,
Because he's stoic. We don't know. We don't see his perspective anymore. We
right.
don't.
So
know.
you're giving
I'm
him
saying-
the benefit of the doubt for a
saying
narcissistic sociopath, Jeffrey. Never give a narcissistic sociopath the benefit of the doubt. They'll kill you. They'll kill you, Jeffrey.
Well, he does kind of sacrifice
Look,
himself.
I
at the
think
end, you know.
people always have room for growth, and he did sacrifice himself. And when he did
He
die,
didn't do it
it
for
was in the
him.
sense of again, I read Age of Madness one time. I'm going off vague recollections, but if I'm not mistaken, didn't he die with like a smile on his face, like he fulfilled?
Because he
some-
died. He wanted to die.
I'm just saying, I think there's a chance that it's in his mind, he's like, all right, he knows he's a shitty person. He's been confronted with that by the person he's been most obsessed with, right? He's been
Yeah, said
confronted
no
with that.
narcissist ever,
So
Jeffrey.
there's that. So then, like, that's the ultimate goddamn I fucking suck. I'm just saying, maybe from that point, maybe he may. It's a possibility that he tried to get better. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. He
Yeah,
tried.
like most
Like to
narcissists.
think so,
But
yeah.
all narcissists do that. Right. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, right. And a lot of them fucking fail or suck at it, or they never meant it. We don't know. I mean, but here's the thing: when a lot of narcissists, they tend to have like, they tend to like, oh, I guess his real good skill is that he's a fucking badass killer. So maybe that's it. But I'm just saying, there's a chance. There's a chance. That's all I'm saying.
No chance.
Well,
No
we'll
chance
never
at all.
find out. We'll have to start a debate with this. Listeners, after this, like it's just debate amongst yourselves. Do you think Gorst got better after the heroes, or is he still the same?
You can't even say it with a straight.
Saying
You
we
think
don't know.
Gorse is good now?
I'm just saying we don't know.
Did Fenrir single-handedly cure narcissism?
Maybe he's badass enough to do it.
Maybe.
It's possible. It is possible.
You know who's not a narcissist?
Go ahead, hit me.
Beck. Beck is not a narcissist.
Boy, he was in the beginning. Well, he had
Oh, he
narcissism.
was definitely cocky. He was definitely cocky, but he wasn't.
I'm being a cunt. Jesus. Go ahead. Talk about Beck. You brought him up.
He's the only he's one of the only him and Giselle takes too long to realize it, but he's one of the only characters who so quickly realizes that not only is this not the life for him, but this whole thing is fucked, and he just doesn't want to be a part of it, and he's gonna go live a peaceful life. Props to you, Beck. There's really not much more to say about it, other than the fact that it is very in terms of writing. I think it's great that Joe took it to that level of killing one of his a comrade in cold blood, basically, after he hid, after the hype of him. Every other character before Beck, there's not really any wimpy characters, not really.
Mm.
You could say that
Poorly.
Giselle kind of is, but Giselle's still ready to be Giselle still fought somebody to try to protect, Malachus. He at least stood up. He couldn't even look. He couldn't even go down the stairs. Beck couldn't. So he is definitely Joe's most quote unquote.
I think he's relatable, definitely.
Yeah, very relatable.
He's probably the most similar to a normal person in today's world. Sort of gonna go join the army. It's gonna be great, and then you're like, oh fuck, this is a bad idea.
Yeah, he's like the definition of the All Quiet on the Western Front main guy.
Yeah, I want to point out that Joe did a really great job at that, right? Because you see the hubris of youth and the excitement, and we've all been there, right? And he's nasty to his mom because he's like, I'm leaving no matter what. But then he's obviously he's still a kid, and he has to leave kind of quickly, or else he'll kind of break down and cry in front of her, right?
Yeah.
But he still has high hopes, dreams of being making a name for himself and everything. Then the first part of the the illusion coming to crash down is he gets to the weapon take, and he's confused. Is like, wow, these are all kids. What the fuck? And then the only one that's kind of on a level with him is Reft, and he goes, man, Reft's he's got a bow. He's who's this guy think he is talking to me the way he is? I got the sword of my father, Shama Heartless, the guy who got killed with it, but still, badass guy. And then Reft, once Reft is like, oh, I guess we're about to kill each other. Then Becca's like, oh shit, this is scary. Right, got a little scared there. Then the next stage was discussed with Flood and the crew have been handling secondary duties, right? No battles. They just been doing like cleanups or whatever. I forget it was before they got to Osrung.
Hmm.
Then some revulsion when he sees the chaos of like what happened afterwards. But he's just seeing the after effects, and you can kind of see that anywhere until he sees Shivers just kind of like play a peekaboo with the guy's kidneys with that little knife, right? Then he's like, "What the fuck?" And then the fear sets in. The day of the battle, and we don't need to rehash it, but we see that too. I like how Joe broke it into parts of like the slow shattering of Beck's worldview on like what it is to make a name for yourself in wartime. I really enjoyed that. I know there's not a lot to talk about with Beck, and that's true, absolutely. But I do like that, and I do like that with that disillusionment, he's trying to find like what's the reason for all this, and how the fuck am I alive?
Yeah.
I'm a coward. How am I being celebrated? Everything that he thought is turned upside down. He sees the man that they were supposed to like protect, Dow, get killed, and Wonderful and them didn't do anything about it. And if anything, kind of seems like they were complicit in it because like money was exchanged somehow. He's like, "Fuck this, I'm out. This is done." Literally, maybe one out of what 2 or 3 characters in the entire First Law who made a concrete decision and actively went the other way and seems to have been gone
Successful,
done the better for it, right? Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah,
Gotta give
my
props.
only thing to say about Beck is it's nice that Joe, from a literary standpoint, like he punishes a lot of this kind of hubris a lot in the story, and it's nice that he doesn't punish it here, other than the guilt that the character feels. Like he doesn't be like, all right, he deserves to suffer. Like he doesn't like the next scene. He's like, well, he killed his friend. You know what karma means, right? He's gonna get fucking splayed. Somebody finds out, and he gets the cross put into him. No, he doesn't do any of that. It's like it just is the fact that nobody else knows except for him makes it that much more real. I like that a lot.
I think as well that I think the Beck is the character that benefits the most from the format of the book being so short, being over only 3 days. It's the only way that this kind of character can work, I think, because he's like it immediately goes, yeah, no, this isn't for me. I'm just going home. Like that can't happen over a book that's takes place over 6 months to a year.
Right.
It just wouldn't really make as much sense, sort of I'm in an hour with it, go, do I like this, do I not? And then ultimately make that decision. It doesn't have as much of an impact as it does in the Heroes.
That's true.
So,
well said, my friend. Well said. That's a good point. I never thought about it like that. So the character who I first started reading the book, and I was like, wow, I really like this character, but I think I like him less and less each book, and I think that came across pretty clear in our read through, is Craw. Each time I read Craw, I'm like,
I know.
I don't know.
He doesn't really do much, does he? He kind of like, he makes some speeches, and he's like, every time he turns around, he's like, oh, all of my friends are dead, and it's like, man, you're part of the problem, dude.
It's like relatable at first, and you're kind of on board with it, but then you have to remember, like you said, George, this book takes place over 3 days, right? In 3 days, we saw how many times he was like thinking about like his old lover who we never actually got to love. He started thinking about how he wanted to retire and how he wanted to do all these things and how all these people who die and all this is 3 days of his 20-year career, maybe even longer. His 25, 30-year and he's bitching about like this, like can you imagine? No wonder Wonderful's like, dude, fucking get out of here. She's tired of it too. So like the first time you read it, you're like, wow, what a relatable guy. What a relatable guy. But then the more you put it into perspective, the more you're like, dude, you've been stuck in this cycle of life for fucking your entire existence. It's sad, but also slightly annoying.
It is.
I
think it's very annoying.
It's great for Joe to do from a literary point of being like, this is what a veteran's like, in its own way, and that's great. It's accurate. It's perfect. But in terms of me just enjoying the book, man, fuck you, Craw. Fucking grow up, Craw.
Yeah, man, Craw does need to grow up. And you know what? Again, he doesn't actually do anything in this book except that. Except tell Black Dow about Calder's plans.
That's it.
And even though Calder was clearly drunk and just said it like out of the blue, like he wasn't being serious at the time. And Craw's like, oh, I'm gonna tell him I'm gonna do the right thing, even if it means betraying my only friend.
I gotta tell him. I gotta tell him.
What a fucking pussy.
What do you think, Jeff?
I mean, Crawl. Look, I don't. I like Crawl. I don't hate him. I like Crawl. I mean, he bland compared to other characters? Yeah. But it's nice to see like that war grizzled veteran who like we get to see his perspective. Who for all intents and purposes might be a little similar to Three Trees, but Three Trees is probably a little bit more, uh, accepting of his position, right? Fine with the whole wartime kind of thing, because that's just the way things are. I do him finally coming to terms with like, yo, I am a soldier, this is just who I am. Literally when he's like what, in his 60s or 70s,
Nah, he's in his like 50s, but I know what you mean.
I'd say mid 50s.
Yeah, he's in his 50s because you can't in the north you can't be a solder. Like you could say hardbred is in the new. But think about this. I mean, the odds of somebody being Krull says he's been doing this for 30 years, and he was probably 16 whenever he joined Three Trees. So
all right, that makes sense. I don't know why I always like picture him to be like older than 50. I don't know.
It's because he sounds old. He's always like,
Maybe
oh man,
that's
but I'm so hard. I could totally leave at any point, but I'm not going to because I'm a pussy.
Well, I guess what I'm also saying is like when he retires, I don't know how much time has passed from the time he retired to when Hardbread comes around, right?
I mean, probably
A year?
a couple years at most.
Maybe a year or two, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so not that much time. Either way, the fact that it took him like 30, 40 years or whatever, 30 or 40 years, it's like, oh no, this is just what I want to do till then, till I die. It's like, Jesus, it took some time to get to that place, part in your life, I guess. Right? But I don't really like, I'm not bothered.
And then he ends up going back on it anyway.
That's what I'm saying.
He spends the whole book going, oh man, I wish I could retire. And then
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
What's the
saying.
point, Craw?
That's what I'm saying. It took him all that time, and then he's a carpenter for about a year or whatever, and then he decides, no, I'm actually a soldier. It's like, what? All right, bro. I don't dislike Craw, and he's cool with me. I'm cool with him, but nothing like crazy, nothing like what's the word?
I definitely don't dislike him, but I definitely also think he's probably the weakest character, or at least
probably for sure.
POV character.
Probably, yeah, probably, maybe next to Beck, maybe. But what I do like is that Craw, when he leaves, I bet you his last parting words to Beck had an impact on Beck's decision to just go back to his mom's house.
Yeah, almost definitely.
So I mean that's nice, right? So we'll move on to our next segment, which is our community interaction segment. And since we're basically in between books, there's not really a lot to talk about. And obviously, we'll encourage you to join our Discord. But what we will remind you is that there will be another meming every chapter, starting with Red Country, our Red Country read through. Sir Spaceman is timing that along similar time frames. I think George or Harrison might have more information about that.
Okay, yeah. So are we going to be keeping an eye out in the future for the meming every chapter for Red Country? I mean, as you guys know, this is we will be starting Red Country next week, so we're gonna start poking Spaceman and try and get him to upload that. So this time I think he's going to go back to the original format where you pick out the chapters in advance, so you have a little bit more time. And I think it'll also stop with a bit of the sort of bystander syndrome that a lot of people had with the heroes maybe in every chapter where, yeah, everybody can contribute all at once, but less people did because they felt like they were, not people didn't feel as pressured because you had already picked out the date,
Yeah, that herd mentality of being like, somebody else.
Somebody else will make a meme, and then nobody does. It's like, oh shit. Which seems like what happened this time. Which is fine. So get in contact with Sir Spaceman on Reddit and pick out your favorite chapters so that you can make some memes about them.
Yeah, plan accordingly, folks. Plan accordingly. And speaking of memes, we'll go ahead and we'll jump into our next segment, which is our best meme of the week. Georgie boy, that's you. Take it away.
So this is Sabish Sonites has had, I think, the previous meme of the week or the one before that. And this is the Gordon Ramsay meme where he goes, "What are you?" And it's like an idiot sandwich. But this time it's, "What are you?" It's a cheese trap. with fucking Wirren instead of Gordon Ramsay.
So obscure.
It's
That's
so,
great.
it's so random, but it's funny as hell.
You wonder, hey, do you think Joe has cheese trap trademarked?
He might do. You never know.
He might. Can you imagine? He's got cheese trap trade. No one else can.
If he has cheese trap fucking trademarked, we're gonna be fucked. We've used so many like character names and sentences. in our
I mean,
episode.
we haven't. I mean, we're not making any money. It's fine.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've made like $6 on this, and we've spent probably like 500.
Yeah.
That's
It's
the way it goes.
Joe, you're gonna have to deal with it. Cheese trap is common law now, unless somebody uses to make my money.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Sebastian, for that.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And now we'll move on back to our discussion of the heroes. George, I think you wanted to talk about Calder next.
Yeah, I think Calder might be my favorite character in this book.
Really?
At least to my favorite POV. He's definitely the most interesting to read. He's got the most going on. He's probably got the most interesting characters that he interacts with in the form of Deep and Shallow, and also being sort of at the top of the pile alongside Craw. You know, we get to see him. We get to see Black Dow and Glamour Cold and Kerm Ironhead and those sort of colourful characters through his eyes the most, I think. And also him being such a witty bastard. You know, he's probably got the funniest in the monologue. So all of that together, I think, makes Calder the most interesting to read, at least. Even though we started off this book hating him for having killed Forley the Weakest, and
I never
generally,
hated him for killing Forley the
sorry, Harrison agreed with the killing of Forley the Weakest. That was good.
I knew I should have poisoned Harrison when I was down there.
You missed your chance, old man.
Well, I know where you live. So
Damn.
yeah, Calder was one of my favorite. I mean, if I think about it, he probably was my favorite POV in this book too. To be honest with you, it's that or Tunney, because Tunney's like funny, and he's obviously he has the. Well, we'll talk about Tunney, I guess, in a bit. But obviously, I love Dow, but in terms of POV, yeah, I think Calder might take it here. And yeah, at the beginning, once I realized we were looking at Calder's point of view, I was like, "Fuck this guy for what he did to Forley," and then you kind of just get around to being very sympathetic to him, and you're like, "Oh, Calder, I get what you're trying to do, but stay away from Dow. But also, fuck you for killing Forley. But also, I kind of do understand. I get it."
At least he's remorseful about it, you know.
Yeah, he isn't remorseful about it, but his interactions with Foss and Deep are hilarious. You know, oopsie whoopsies and all that stuff, oopsie DCs. And then his some of his political maneuvering is cunning, and other times it's very like, oh, dude, that's
Dumb.
very blatant and dumb. And then, but he has like some pretty good conversations, like with the whole Baez thing. That was fun too. But then it's also because of Baez, Baez being Baez. Calder, I mean, obviously, I feel like went through growth here in the sense of always afraid to fight, and then one time at the very least, couple times he was forced to fight or at least be in the thick of things in some sense. And so he came close to death. Came on the other side of it all right. Went through the momentary trauma of believing his brother to be dead. Then that weird guilt / relief when he finds out he is alive, and he's like, "Oh, great, he's alive. Do I gotta kill him now?" And it's nice for him to kind of like come to terms with it and like choose family over his own ambition for once, which is cool, So there's layers to Calder. I like Calder.
So Calder, I've been kind of saving for this episode, not gonna lie, because Calder is a strange character to me, because he is, to be clear, he's very well written, as all Joe's characters are. Most of his characters are, and I think he's done excellently, and he is complex, and he's very interesting. That being said, the first time I read Calder, I fell into the trap that I think most people fell into, which is Calder is, wow, I really want Calder to win. Like, yeah, sure, he's kind of a scumbag, but like, at least he's smart. At least he wants something better for the North. At least he's like carrying on a legacy. Like, it's easy to be like, oh man, look at this guy. But And I do like him. I love that he chooses family at the end. That, like we talked about in a couple episodes ago, or last episode, sorry. How last episode of the book, how awesome that is for the series, and how that has impacts, and why that fits his character so well. That being said, I really don't think Calder is that fucking clever. He does like one clever maneuver, and everybody loses their minds.
Yeah, it's just like
beyond-
one really obvious thing.
He does one really, really cool maneuver that works, and because of that, everyone's like, "Oh my god, he's so smart. He's so clever. He's not. He is more cunning than some of the Northmen." But you put him up to almost any other clever bastard out there, and he doesn't fucking hold a candle. He's not as clever as Black Dow is. That's for damn sure. Like he did one maneuver on the battlefield. He is completely inept when it comes to people. To be totally honest, he thinks he knows people. He doesn't.
Yeah, he always drops that thing about like planting seeds and that, but everyone's just looking at him like, we know exactly what you're doing, Calder. Like,
yeah, Shivers did it for himself. Everything else was Baez. So Calder taking credit for any of that is not worthwhile. And since we talked about it before with some of the other characters, in Age of Madness, people are like, I thought Calder was going to be more clever and cunning. He never was. He is not an idiot, and he is a thinker, but he's too caught up in his own fucking world to actually think clearly. That's why he has the whole fucking issue with Stour Nightfall. Stour Nightfall is his problem. The reason Stour Nightfall is the way he is because of Calder. And then, at the end, when he is in trouble with Ricka, you know what he does? He gathers some forces and goes and attacks the castle. And people are like, I expected more. Why? Why did you expect more? The only thing we know that he did clever was set up some stakes on a battlefield and dig a trench. That's it. That's the only clever thing he's ever done. But I love Calder. I love his arc in this book, and I think he is a great character. But him being some smart, clever bastard, I don't think Joe ever meant that. I think he was trying to show that, like, listen, this guy is a thinker. Sometimes his plans work. Many times they don't. And then he even turns it up to 11 whenever it turns out that Baez was the one who planted all the seeds with money. And the only thing that actually happened on its own was Shivers. And even Shivers, Shivers. Maybe Calder thinks he convinced Shivers, and maybe to a degree Shivers like, that's interesting. But Shivers does everything for himself at this point in the story. So, Anyways, love Calder. Not as clever as he thinks he is. Great character. Great guy.
great guy.
Great guy. Yeah, I heard he had 4 of the weakest killed. Great guy, though. Great guy.
He deserved to die. He was the weakest.
Harrison, I will have you shot. So, and I guess we'll go ahead and talk about our next character, our POV, which is
Tunny.
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 Oh, Corporal Tunny, not Lance Corporal, not Private, not Sergeant, Corporal Tunny.
Yeah, I mean, Tunny's the first time that we've had like a real boots on the ground kind of perspective on the Union. Like we've had people that have been in command command posts, things like that, like West, and that we've seen characters like battles take place and stuff like that. But actually, from characters like the actual common soldier's perspective, not a great place to be, but also not the worst either. Like Tunny does seem to have pretty fucking cushy life, doesn't it? He's just sort of like chilling all the time.
It does seem he's got a very sad like it seems like he's got a very sad existence, but like really just because he's a normal dude in comparison to everybody, he's just doing his best in this dark world.
Doing his best.
And he serves his purposes. He's pretty much comic relief in this book, which is good, which is fine. Obviously, there's the dark moments as well. He loses 3 of his 4 recruits. And he is actually genuinely upset by this, as we see, even though he kind of shrugs it off. And plus, to convince everybody else that he's not upset by this, he is deep down, And he's sort of like he's that old sort of soldier in war films that sort of accepted the inevitability of these things that are going to happen, but is still affected by them.
Still hurts, yeah. No, it does for sure. And there's still some like idealism, right? Maybe some patriotism in him, right?
Yeah, he's still like does his job really well. He's got the standard ready to go, and he's like charging it like
Him being the standard bearer, when it's time to go, my boy goes. My boy goes. He takes his job real seriously. The I don't know, what would you call it, the pinnacle of soldiery, right? That's what Corporal Tunney represents. And I like
Exactly. He's the perfect soldier.
Yeah, he's kind. Well, he's
he's a career soldier.
He's a perfect realistic soldier. He also is he's also like a kind of character that you see in, like, if he wasn't in war, then he would seem even more reasonable and normal. Like, he's the kind of guy you go to work with, and they go to work, have a decent time, make their living, go home, spend all their money on booze and shit. They're happy though, relatively happy.
Game the system where they can.
Every now and then they get annoyed with the system. Every now and then, like, this is kind of annoying. But Tunney is the most average motherfucker. Like, true. Like, I know you talked about how, like, it's, earlier we talked about how it's kind of realistic from other people's perspectives and relatable. But like Tunney, he is, like, if you're being honest with yourself, he is one of the most relatable people in the whole story. He does the most relatable, like, everyday working man stuff. Most characters in Joe's books are like doing some crazy shit. And it's fine, because it works, because he writes them well. But like Tunney, he's just a man doing his job. If he could work a 9 to 5, he would work that 9 to 5 every day.
Exactly. He has no ambition. He just wants to get by.
Yeah. Yeah, he may do some questionable things at work and on the side, but he's also not like going off into the deep end.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely not. He's not at the point of like some of the characters that are going to pop up in Red Country that stab themselves to avoid taking part in the battle. He's not that bad.
Yeah, stabbing yourself, or chopping off people's legs,
or like Ghost, killing your own guys because you're just being careless.
Yeah, or threatening to kill your own stepdaughter, adopted daughter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all those things.
Yeah, I mean, gotta love Tunney, really do. And then it's cool that we, like, Tunney's one of those characters that we'll see, more than once. But his POV in this book was really cool. And what I really like about Tunney is, like, you could tell, like, you get hints of, like, a lot of backstory. That he was at Oriok, he was at Dunbrack, he was at the Cumnor, he was at all these other battles.
He was at all of them.
Yeah. And there's always, like, some kind of shenanigans, maybe. A court-martial here, court-martial there. I think it's just great.
It's cool to think that maybe the court-martial's for things that you wouldn't expect from him. It could have been a court-martial with him ignoring an order to go save somebody. Like, that's the kind of stuff, like, that's what I mean is, like, I agree with you. Like, there's a lot of subtle things that could be thrown up in the air one way or the other. He is kind of, like we talked about, he is kind of scummy and kind of dirty, But he also, like you guys also mentioned, he has a sense of honor and duty beyond most people. And he takes pride in his work, you could say.
I think, he's just gotten to the point where he realizes that just trying too hard is just going to get people killed.
Yeah.
And it's going to be his fault. So he's just, like, trying to stay back as far as he can.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tunney, we love Tunney here.
Yeah, we love that. I think Calder and Tunney are the standout for me in the heroes.
Yeah, stand out.
What about you, Jeff? Same?
No, yeah, just about, and Finry. I really enjoyed Finry.
Yeah.
How about you, Harrison?
I enjoy Finry a lot. It changed, like I said before too. Like, I always get a lot different perspectives when we're reading Joe Abercrombie book, just because there's more revealed and you pay attention more to the details and you look at more objectively and all that. So, like, the first couple times I read it, it was for sure like Calder and Craw. Gore still annoys the hell out of me. Beck is a really good story, but I think for me, the ones I enjoy the most, like in the subtle, like, I enjoy it every single time I read it, is Finry and Tunney the most. That's what my favorites are.
Excellent.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so that's our POV review of the heroes' POV characters. Harrison, I know you wanted to, like, talk about something before we end the episode.
Yeah, I just we do all our things at the beginning of the episode, and all that is true. But it's crazy to think now that we're wrapping up the heroes, and the heroes is like the heroes was marking our halfway point. Halfway through the book, we're halfway through the series, and that we're beyond that now, and we've been doing it, 3 years, about, and here's another 3 years, gentlemen, and hopefully we get to see you guys every year, because in some form or another, because I love you guys, and everybody who listens and watches and all that. We appreciate all of you guys because you guys brought us together. Jeffrey put the whole thing together, but I think you guys have kept us around.
Yeah,
even all 200 of you,
Our
and
fans.
our fans, the true believer. We really appreciate you guys. We do.
We really do, yeah. And
We too, man.
that was really heartwarming, Harrison. And absolutely, yeah. And hopefully another 3 years and longer, for as long as Joe writes.
Until 190.
Absolutely. And I cannot wait to sink our teeth into Red Country. I can't wait. So excited for that one. And I think that's going to be great. And then, obviously, after Red Country is when we do Age of Madness, right?
No. We got Sharp Ends.
Oh, Sharp Ends. Really? We're going to do that before Age of Madness?
Yeah, that's when it's meant to be. Publishing order.
Okay. All right. Sure. Works for me. But yeah, so excited about that, And, we want to see more memes, more community interactions. We want to see more people. We just want the fandom to increase in numbers and improve in quality.
Exactly. I mean, that's why we started this in the first place, isn't it? We just thought that Joe Abercrombie did not get enough attention.
Right.
And we just wanted to meet people that were of, like-minded tastes, And we've met a lot of fantastic people. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, seriously, thank you all. We do appreciate it. It's been a hell of a ride so far.
And like you say, Harrison, to another 3 years or more, hopefully.
Another 3 years to infinity and beyond.
We'll find something else to talk about afterwards. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Guys.
we'll figure it out. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support means so much to us.
Join us next week as we start Red Country.
And make sure you follow us on all of the social media and check out the website at circleoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. And please make sure to rate and review us. Thank you all again for listening.
All part of the hero's mystery.